Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DropKick Podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. He's a four-time Emmy-winning TV host.
He's the greatest wrestling interviewer out there, and as you can see, he's also the king of beards. Everybody, please welcome Chris Van Vliet.
How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm good, guys. Thank you for having me on. I think, maybe I should be Chris Van Beard these days. This thing is getting out of hand.
Yeah, man. How's quarantine been for you, though?
It's been all right. I mean, here's the thing. We're all dealing with this together. And that's what makes this so special is not just, in North America, but worldwide, everybody's dealing with the same things. So we're all just taking it in stride, right? But it's nice to see that some stuff's opening back up. We're able to get haircuts. My gym opened up recently. So it was a nice pause. And, now things are slowly getting back to normal.
For sure.
Yeah. So as we said earlier before we started the recording, I live in London, Ontario. Daniel lives in Richmond Hill. You grew up in Pickering, Ontario. What was your upbringing like?
So Pickering, Ontario, for those people who might not know, that's right next to Toronto. So going into the city was like a special occasion, whether it was a Leafs game, Raptors game. I was a big Blue Jays fan. And Toronto's where stuff happened, right? Like that's where the big jobs were.
Yeah.
Right.
So, to be able to live in the shadow of that and still, have the normal life of being in the suburbs. I did a lot of fishing, still do a lot of fishing, but did a lot of fishing in Pickering. I would fish by the nuclear power plant, which sounds like an insane idea, but the fishing was actually very good there. I would also take the GO train into Toronto and then fish on Center Island. I loved it. And my parents are still there. Most of my friends are still there. And I get back now like twice a year. Here's the thing. When you live in a warm climate, everybody wants to come visit you.
Yeah.
So I have a fair of visitors. And then like in the summer, I'm like, all right, Mom, I'll come home for like a weekend or something.
Yeah, it's always nice to come back. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when your family lives in Canada. They definitely want to go see the people in the warmer climate.
Well, and as you guys know, there's like this, when you live in Canada, there's like this special thing about America because everything's cheaper here. I mean, we've all taken those trips to Buffalo or Niagara Falls, New York, just to buy some things because stuff is so much cheaper.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Speaking of journeys and stuff, what's been your journey like to where you are now? I'm sure everyone's got some self-doubt when they're, during going through that process. Did you have any self-doubt yourself?
I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. So, of course, yes, we all have self-doubt, but I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I was super passionate about broadcasting, and I always loved radio and television. So to make my story like pretty short, I had this epiphany in my senior year of I keep saying senior year. It's such an American term. My fourth year of university. I've lived here for 10 years. I've become Americanized. My senior year of college. My fourth year of university. I went to Wilfrid Laurier University. It's so nice to be talking to fellow Canadians. And I loved being at Laurier, and some of my best friends were there with me. And I just had this epiphany that like when we graduated, like that was it. It was going to have to like be work for the next 40, 50 years of my life.
Yeah, it hits you.
Right. Yeah. And like that's a huge realization because you're 21 at the time and you're thinking, oh my God, my age times 2, I'm going to be working for. So I reached out to every radio station, every TV station in Waterloo and basically said, I want to see how it's done in the real world. And I just thought if I was taking this chance on myself, if I was going to stack the odds in my favor, somebody out there would eventually go, yeah, kid, come on in. Well, we'll show you how this is done. And I was fortunate that a radio station let me be on their street team. Rogers Community Television, as you guys know, is run by volunteers. So they had me come in and I learned a ton of stuff there. And that's where I really got the wheels rolling. And I thought all that self-doubt I might have had kind of went away because I'm like, I built this for me. Like nobody else helped me here. I went out of my way to do this. So if I can build this myself, what else can I build?
You can do it all, yeah.
That's true. It's very true.
For sure.
So, out of all the wrestlers that you've interviewed, a lot of people, including myself, would say my favorite interview with you was with AEW superstar MJF. So my question is, he's a pretty interesting guy. What was going through your head during that interview, and would you dare to interview MJF again?
Well, I'm glad to hear that's your favorite interview. That's my least favorite interview. He's such a character, right? And I get asked a lot, like, "Oh, is that what's he like off camera? Is that what he's really like?" Well, that's it. Like MJF, the character, and his real name, by the way, is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and where MJF the person and MJF the character end and begin is like this weird blurred line. So. Yes, I would do another interview with him. I would be much more prepared this time. The thing is, and you saw it in this interview, you can't like really stand up to him because there's an answer for everything.
Yeah. He answers back fast too. It's like
he's so quick, and like he has all the makings of being a future megastar. I mean, he's already on his way, but I think that he's definitely a TNT champion in the next year or so, and world champion. I mean, he's what, 24? World champion before he's 30, for sure. He's so incredibly talented on the mic and in the ring, and he looks great.
Was his omelet actually good?
Yeah, it was really. There was like peppers in there. That omelet was surprisingly good. I can't believe I'm saying this many nice things about MJF. He's the worst.
Hey man, we're Canadians. We got to be nice.
We got to be.
That's nice. That's right.
Yeah, but you interviewed a lot of people like MJF. If you could interview somebody you haven't already, who would that person be?
Well, the top of my list is Vince McMahon. And, we're having this conversation right now because Vince McMahon, exists. And I don't want to just talk to him about wrestling, although that'd be a fascinating conversation. But what a brilliant businessman Vince McMahon is. And I would just love anyone who's that good at anything, anyone who's the top of their game is that way for a reason. And I would just love to break down the way his mind works, his daily routines, what he does when he wakes up in the morning. And I would just love to have that kind of conversation because I don't think anyone's really gone that deep with Vince.
For sure. Yeah.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I'll keep putting it out there.
So, as you said, MJF was your least favorite interview. Who was your favorite interview?
Yeah.
So that's like asking a parent who their favorite child is. But for me, it's easy. My favorite interview is The Rock. And Rock meant so much to me growing up. I was in high school during the Attitude Era, so I'm walking around the halls raising the people's eyebrow and shouting, "It doesn't matter!" at literally everybody, including teachers. So when that'd be like the end of the 90s, so 12 years later, when I actually got to interview The Rock, it was just so special. Number one, because The Rock meant so much to me as a wrestler in that WWF Attitude Era growing up. But number two, he's the biggest star in the world. And for you to be able to share some time with someone who's that successful, I mean, it's just special. And The Rock makes you feel special in that moment. He goes out of your way to make the moment about you. And for him to have that kind of self-awareness is huge. I mean, he could just, he does 30, 40, 50, 60, however many interviews he does in a day. It'd be so easy for him to just blow it off as, oh, yeah, there's another 5 minutes I'm spending with this person. But he takes his time to make it a special moment for you. And, you always hear the phrase, never meet your heroes. Well, what happens to be Dwayne Johnson? You should absolutely meet your hero.
For sure, yeah, absolutely. We understand before interviewing wrestlers, you used to also interview actors and other mainstream celebrities. When did you decide that transition into pro wrestling? Like such as interviewing, The Rock, MJF. How was like that transition for you? I recently heard, I think it was on the Wrestling Classics podcast. I was listening to it till like 6 a.m. last night.
Wow.
And then
another fellow Canadian.
Yeah, absolutely. Your first wrestling interview was Bobby Lashley, if I'm not correct.
Yeah.
So how has that transition been like for you?
So the two actually kind of coexist. So my job since I graduated has been entertainment reporter, TV host. I've been so fortunate to be able to like travel the world, interview the biggest stars in the world. And kind of the byproduct of interviewing actors and musicians and celebrities is every once in a while wrestling would come to town. And I was just kind of selfishly like, oh my God, is this my opportunity to interview wrestlers? It's amazing. I get to interview my idols. That's how it started. The Bobby Lashley interview was in 2007 when he was the ECW champion. And I just asked my boss, I said, WWE's coming to town. I mean, we interview musicians and actors all the time. How would you feel about a wrestler? Oh, yeah, we've had wrestlers on the show before. I'm like, hold on. You're telling me.
We got something here, yeah.
You're telling me I can, like, hang out with a wrestler and we'll put it on TV? Yeah, sure. See if we can set something up. That's how it kind of began. It was I was doing 95% of my interviews with celebrities for the TV shows that I was working for. And then every time wrestling would come to town, we'd do an interview with the Raw or SmackDown superstar or Ring of Honor star, Impact Wrestling star, whatever it happened to be. And we'd put like the tiny little snippet on TV of like, Raw's in town, tickets start at $20. And I thought, well, if I'm here with a superstar that I absolutely idolize, I got to ask them all kinds of questions. I can't just stand here with Mick, for example, and not ask him about Hell in a Cell or ask him about, his great matches with The Rock or whatever it happened to be. So we would do like a 10, 15-minute interview. We would air that one little snippet that promoted the show. And here I was left with, this other great interview that I loved as a wrestling fan. And I thought, if I enjoyed this as a wrestling fan, other wrestling fans must enjoy this too. So I just kind of accidentally put it on YouTube. I said, this has to live somewhere. We just can't delete this file for it never to be seen again. And I just started putting them on my YouTube channel, which had like 2 subscribers at the time. And that's honestly how my YouTube channel started. I was doing these interviews as part of my regular job.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We also understand you had aspirations to become a professional wrestler when you were younger. You were, if I'm not mistaken, you were in wrestling school and you were studying at Wilfrid Laurier University at the same time. Was it difficult for you to leave wrestling school at the time, and what contributed to that decision?
Look at you guys doing your research. Very nice. Thank you.
Dude, we put in, we were so stressed out. Like, before this interview,
Thank you.
I hopped in the shower real quick, and I was like, I'm going to take a shower. Like, I got to look good for this because, I wanted to interview for a long time. For sure. And, I was like, dude, I lost track of time. I hope it's not 3 because, I don't want to be late and I don't want to piss them off. But yeah, man, I was so nervous for this.
Well, I'm glad we made this happen. And, great job so far. So to answer your question, wrestling was what I wanted to do. I was a backyard wrestler in high school. I was also an amateur wrestler on my high school team. I was at Pine Ridge Secondary School in Pickering. And I wanted to be a pro wrestler. And that was it. That was my dream. But I was going to school for communication studies. And you can't really do both. You can't put all your time and effort into both. It's just not possible. And I thought wrestling's always going to be there. I was 2 years into university at the time, and I was training that summer. So it was the summer between my second and third year. And I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I was trying to make ends meet. I was working like 7:30 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, and then trying to go to wrestling school on weekends. It was too much, right? It was too much. Like, I was being spread too thin. And I thought, I've got to decide, is it school or is it wrestling school? And the pretty simple decision for me, school. I got to finish this. I'm only happy. Once I'm done this, I can do whatever I want to do after that. So learned the basics. I know how to bump. I know how to run the ropes. We did that spot that you'll see in every wrestling match where it's basically like it's headlock and then off the ropes and then drop down, hip toss versus spot.
Yeah.
So I learned all this stuff, and then it was like, it's time to go back to university. And I thought this will always be there for me, and it was. And when I worked in Vancouver for a year, I went to wrestling school and did a TV segment there. But I just kind of realized that maybe I was better off chasing this broadcasting dream than chasing this wrestling dream. And it's worked out really well for me. I get to be a podcaster that kind of, dips his toe into the wrestling world every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure, man. It worked out great for you. You were on the first episode of Dynamite, right? If I'm not correct?
Yeah. Second, we were live in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that was great, man. But I recently heard on the Pro and Bro podcast with Darren Young and Arnold that you had an itch to get in the ring, again. And could we see Chris Sharp in a match? And if so, against who?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, as much as I want to, I think that everything I love to do, I like to dive all the way into and give myself to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that if I were to debut in the wrestling ring, I just know that the match would not be great. I know my first match would be not good. My second match would be slightly less good. And then, so on and so on. Mm-hmm. I just turned 37 a few weeks ago. Even though I don't feel 37, I don't feel like I look 37. I just know that like my wrestling career has probably a lot more years behind me than in front of me. So I would love to have a match, and I would love to commit a full year of training with some of the best trainers to make this happen. I just don't know that it makes the most sense. I don't know if that's the best use of a year of my time right now.
Yeah, feel you.
So, who would you say you would consider the best wrestler in the world right now, and why?
I will go with the answer I have said for many, many years, and I think Dolph Ziggler is the best in-ring performer. And he's so incredibly underutilized, and I think that, and Dolph said this to me many times in interviews, if Dolph was 4 inches taller and 30 pounds heavier, he'd be the world champion like 6 times. And I completely believe him. But I also think that if Dolph Ziggler had broken into WWE like 6 years later, 7 years later, if he had the opportunity to go in through NXT and then work his way up onto the main roster, he'd be such an incredible star. So I think that you put Dolph Ziggler in the ring with literally anybody, and that match is going to be incredible.
It's money, yeah, for sure. Last night we saw a match between Randy Orton and Edge that some have called the greatest match of all time. What's your favorite match of all time? Sorry.
Well, the some that call it the greatest match are the people in WWE who put that on the poster. I don't know if anybody outside of that is calling it the greatest match ever. My favorite match is Rock versus Hogan, WrestleMania 18.
Right in Toronto.
In Toronto, I was there.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
You watch the first 2 minutes of that match. I got goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah,
you watch the first 2 minutes of that match, and that's what wrestling is all about. There's obviously a ton of technical matches that I love and a ton of high-flying matches that I love. But when you look at the reaction from the crowd and the intensity, that's what it's all about. That is my favorite match. And I have a poster over here autographed by Hogan commemorating that. That match is what wrestling, in my opinion, is all about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. A classic. What would you say is your earliest memory of wrestling growing up?
I remember going to my grandparents' house in Scarborough, and it would be Saturday night and wrestling would just be on. And it like my grandpa wasn't like a huge wrestling fan, but it just Saturday night it was on. And, on other Saturday nights, the Leafs would be on or the Blue Jays would be on. But more often than not, wrestling was on, and we would just be blown away by the larger than life characters. Of course, Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man, but also like kind of the sillier characters too, like Repo Man and IRS and, Coco Beware and all that stuff. That was my earliest memory of it. And I just remember like seeing these larger than life characters, like real life superheroes on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's got their, first memory. But recently I saw, this is an old clip actually. I saw an interview with you and Leslie Mann. Things got pretty interesting at the beginning. What were you thinking during that, moment?
Yes, it's like this if for anyone who doesn't know, this is viral video where Leslie Mann and Dakota Johnson try to coerce me into taking my shirt off. It's so ridiculous to say out loud. It was fun. It was so much fun because they were doing interviews for a movie called How to Be Single. And I was like waiting outside, and the way these interviews work is they're sitting in a hotel room, and every 4 minutes a new reporter goes in and has a quick 4-minute interview with them. And then, they keep cycling through this process. So everyone that had gone in before me, they were like, good luck with that one. Like they're not having any fun. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I prepared like, we just have fun. The movie was fun. It was a comedy. And the second I walked in the room, Leslie Mann was just, she, in her words, she said I was a breath of fresh air. And she starts trying to set me up with her makeup artist and hot guy alert. And I'm like, I want to see how far I can roll with this. And I worked for a really fun TV show called Deco Drive that like loved this kind of like outside of the box like questioning. So I'm like, I wonder how far I can roll with this. Yeah. So they kept, giving it, pushing, back at me, and I kept pushing back at them, and it was just fun. And when I left that room, I was like, that was like really interesting. Like, and my initial thought was, Dakota Johnson doesn't usually come out of her shell. She's usually just like kind of shy and soft-spoken. And I thought, coming off the success of 50 Shades, this is like a completely different side. We've never seen this side. And I think that the 50 Shades fans will just see that she was having fun. So those were the first people to kind of pick up on it. The Dakota Johnson fans thought, oh, look at Dakota's being fun. And that was on a Friday. And that Monday I woke up and there were all these headlines about how Leslie Mann and Dakota Johnson had hit on me or sexually harassed me or whatever. And for the record, I am okay with what happened there. I was a willing participant. It was all in good fun.
I think anybody would be okay with it.
when I saw Dakota Johnson like a year later, I walked into the room and she's like, oh my God, did Leslie Mann and I sexually harass you? I am so sorry. And I'm like, no.
It's all good.
Okay. And thank you for that fun moment.
Yeah. So, on a little bit more of a serious note, we do like to tap into mental health as a topic on our show. So, if you're comfortable elaborating, of course, have you ever struggled with your mental health? And if so, what advice would you give to some people who are listening who could be struggling?
I just think the biggest thing is what's right and what's wrong, what's positive and what's negative are always available in your daily life. And it's what you focus on. Tony Robbins says it best. What you focus on is how you feel. If you focus on all the negative things going on in your life, of course you're going to feel negative. So I wake up every day and I out loud say 3 things that I'm grateful for. It doesn't necessarily need to be that day, just in general, 3 things that I'm grateful for. And boom, you've started your day with a positive note. It can only get better from there because you've started it. You've primed your day like that. So I think that a lot of people are too focused on what could go wrong here, or what if they don't like me, or what if I apply for this job and I don't get it? And my answer to that is usually, so what? So what, right? Yeah, I think that there's too many people that are scared to pursue whatever it happens to be, whether it's a boyfriend or girlfriend, or it's a job, or it's moving somewhere, or whatever it is, because they keep thinking about the worst case scenario. And I think it's so important to balance that out with, well, what are all the things that could go right here?
Yeah, but to wrap things up here, one final question, man. What does the next chapter hold for Chris Van Vliet?
So I'm about to move to Los Angeles. That is that's a big step here for me, and working in the entertainment industry, and most of my career has been spent as a TV host. That is the place for this to happen. So YouTube's amazing. That's not going anywhere. My podcast, I love it. Turns 1 year old next week. I've had such a great time like connecting with different people on the mic and on camera with that, but also connecting with all these other people like you guys that are just passionate about wrestling. Wrestling connects us all. So
it's great.
That's going to be one piece of what I've got going on here, but taking acting lessons. I've been pursuing hosting as much as I can. So just more. I want to get more out of every single situation that I'm in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. To wrap things up, we like to play a little game with all our guests. So we're going to list 12 people that you have interviewed, and you can use one word or one sentence to describe each of them.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right, here we
go.
Chris Jericho.
He's the greatest.
Of course.
John Cena.
He was John Cena was surprisingly very present, which I didn't really expect, and there were so many great nuggets of advice in there.
MJF.
The worst.
Orange Cassidy.
The guy won't shut up.
Darby Allin.
Darby Allin's fascinating.
Yeah.
To describe him.
Tony Khan.
Tony Khan's brilliant. And I think that Tony Khan will be successful at whatever venture that he happens to be part of.
Of course.
Right now it's AEW, and I'm sure it will be for many, many decades to come, but he's just brilliant.
Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler he's just been really kind to me. Like,
he's a nice guy.
Doing a bunch of interviews together. He's just kind to me. I don't know if everybody sees that side of him.
Yeah. Right. Sean Spears.
Sean Spears also been kind to me. Sean Spears, he can also be a little bit scary. Like when I know this is going to be longer than a sentence. This might be like 3 sentences.
It's all good. No,
it's all good.
What I did with Sean Spears, I think it was almost exactly 1 year ago. He had just been released from WWE. He had just made his appearance at Double or Nothing, and he lived in Orlando. I said, I'm going to be in Orlando next week doing interviews for the new Toy Story movie. I said, perfect. So he came to the resort I was staying at and did the interview there. And I'm waiting in the lobby of like this Disney World hotel, and I see him walking in like just jacked up guy, you know, sleeveless shirt and a mohawk, and he's just like, "Hey man, good to meet you." Like, "Hey, yeah, good to meet you too." And he's very intense. So that was a big story to say. Sean Spears is very intense. Awesome dude. I love the guy, but very intense.
Yeah, but also a personal question here. When you went to the flatback wrestling school with Sean Spears and Tyler Breeze, you got chopped. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was. It didn't tickle. That's for sure. I think the thing you don't see in the YouTube video is it was my idea. So I was gonna go there. You know, Sean Spears and I talked about this in his interview that we did a year ago. And I said, I want to come to the wrestling school, take some bumps, you know, run the ropes, just let people know that flatbacks exists. And he goes, well, at the end, I'm going to give you a chop. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, all right, sure. I can take a chop. I said, it'd be more interesting if you lined all your students up and had each one of them chop. And he's like, dude, are you sure? And I'm like, it'll make for a great video. And I immediately regretted that after like the third chop.
Oh my God. Yeah. That chest, dude. I thought like something like crazy happened, and I watched the video. I'm like, this isn't bad. And I get to like, you know, a couple minutes in, and it's just like,
I had a lot of people I posted the video as like a premiere, and so it was sitting there for like, you know, almost 24 hours with just the thumbnail, and I had so many people being like, you photoshopped this picture and this is fake. I'm unsubscribing to you. I'm like, no, like that's what my chest like currently looks like. Didn't Photoshop anything. And then by the time the video ended, everyone's like, I'm so sorry for calling you a liar.
Oh my God. Yeah, but back to the names. The Rock.
The Rock is the greatest human you could meet, and he's so incredibly successful. And I think that, you know, if we could all just kind of take a little piece of advice from what The Rock has created, if we could just take 1% of that, I think we'd all be super successful.
Yeah, he's really humble, actually, you know, having all the success and staying still, you know, humble to his fans and everyone. It's really great.
Yeah, he's very aware of where he came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. My favorite right now, Jon Moxley.
Jon Moxley was such an interesting interview because he, you know, and he says it in the interview. He's very upfront with me. He's like, "You're my last interview of the day. Who knows what you're gonna get here?" I'm like, "Okay." But I think a good word for Moxley is it's authentic. Like I think what you see on camera is what you get behind the scenes with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Goldberg
was so what a great dude. Yeah. My answer for all these is just, oh yeah, good guy. But my buddy is Goldberg's manager, and you know, that kind of helped kind of bridge the gap there. But we were at this charity event. We're all eating hamburgers off the grill, and I go to my friend. I go, "Do you think Bill would put me up in the jackhammer?" He's like, "I don't know. I'll go ask him." I'm like, "Oh, right now? Okay." And then he like goes over. He's like, "Yeah, he'll do it right now." I'm like, "Okay, well, here's my camera. Can you film this?" Like, who does that? That's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Finally, David Benoit.
I'm really excited for his future.
Yeah.
I think that David Benoit, like all of us, have the option and the ability to do anything that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that David Benoit is looking into wrestling schools, so we could be having the same conversation this time next year, with David Benoit either talking about making his debut somewhere, or maybe he's already made his debut somewhere. So I'm really excited for what the future holds for him.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be great personally. Can't wait for that. But
really
taps
exciting.
into all that God-given stuff that he inherited from his father.
Absolutely, yeah. But I just want to thank you for taking the time and letting us do this with you. I actually look up to you in a way, in terms of doing these interviews, because I used to watch you for a long time, and I'm like, I gotta get Chris Van Vliet on. Like, he's gotta be one of my guests and stuff. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And, thank you for sending me a video message. I think that makes you stand out. That's a big thing. I think that anybody watching this needs to know that. Like, it's one thing to cut and paste a message, Control C, Control V on your laptop or your phone, but to actually take the time to speak to someone directly with a video, that's a great move. So
I appreciate that.
Good on you.
Thanks, man. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and is it possible that we'll see you in the WWE as possible backstage interviewer?
Who knows, right? I don't know. I have no idea. Sure. Anything's possible in the WWE.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.
You too. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.